Top fresh spring fragrances for men. We have some mass appealing, compliment getting ones. We definitely have some affordable ones in this video. We have some that are truly unique and some fragrances that are similar to others but done with a really good twist to them. So let's start with what is one of the most compliment getting scents from YSL. I know some say that this is not a unique scent, but I disagree. The use of orange blossom in men's fragrances is still not that common. And talking about orange blossom, the Myslf line is definitely among some of the best and most mass appealing compliment getting ones. So I've already done a YSL Myslf comparison. I'm gonna link to that comparison somewhere up here and in the description below. So make sure you check it out. Myslf L'absolu basically builds upon the fantastic freshness of the OG Myself, but makes it more nuanced and richer thanks to a dose of ginger. This basically takes that freshness in a more nuanced and slightly richer direction. The main star of both is still orange blossom, and L'absolu definitely has quite a bit of the orange blossom from the OG, but its floral side is definitely more nuanced and in a way a bit more exciting if you compare it to the OG. And both of these are softly woody at the base. Myslf L'absolu is an absolutely gorgeous mix of freshness, florals and woodiness, and I do think this is a great choice as a fresh spring fragrance. One question I get a lot is it redundant to have both? And I'm gonna say yeah, unless you're a bit like me in that you absolutely love orange blossom and you're a bit obsessed with the combo of freshness and orange blossom, then it's probably not redundant to have both. Next up is this thing right here, and I do feel this is quite an underrated men's fragrance, and one way to describe it is like if you would take like a mix of Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette and Prada Luna Rosa Carbon, the Eau de Toilette, but add a very prominent dose of fruitiness and a touch of herbal and green kind of freshness to it. So you have this gorgeous aromatic, fruity, fresh and woody kind of scent. What a fantastic idea it was to go with kiwi, and I do hope that they someday create a more potent version of Coach Green. So next up we have this thing right here, which is a fantastic fragrance that most guys for some reason don't know about. And one way to sort of describe, but not perhaps exactly describe this, is that it does have some similarity to the fantastic Armani Parfum, but with a different kind of freshness and also a different kind of powderiness. Both are citrusy fresh, but citrusy fresh in different ways, and this also has a really nice dose of spicy freshness. I do feel both are powdery fresh, but I also do not feel that Armani He has the same kind of fantastic airy kind of powderiness that Armani Parfum has. And both are woody, but I do find the woody side of each to be a bit different. And I also feel that if you're someone who enjoys Armani Parfum, you will most likely enjoy Armani He. Armani He's combination of freshness, powderiness and woodiness is something I feel is absolutely perfect for spring, and what an epic compliment this one is. So the next fresh fragrance for spring is a fragrance I feel has quite a lot in common with one of my top compliment getters, Le Mal. And I'm pretty sure they were heavily inspired by Le Mal when they created this. And sort of a simplified Parfums de Marly Darley is almost like if you would take Le Mal and tone down its sweetness and vanilla and instead add a big dose of woodiness to it. But of course with an additional twist to it, you get a fantastic, intense, but at the same time smooth combination of freshness with citrus, mint and lavender, and all that on a creamy and smooth woody base. And I also feel there's quite a bit of a difference when it comes to the vibe of these two. Parfums de Marly Darley feels more classy and elegant. So next up we have this, which I feel is a fantastic, quite affordable scent. This thing is definitely has quite a nice dose of freshness, and it has a really nice sexy dose of sweetness. Its freshness and its sweetness sits on top of a woody base, and the whole thing is a bit powdery. Bentley for Men Black Edition is a fantastic affordable choice for spring and probably one of the top fragrances from Bentley's line. So if you're a subscriber, and if you're not yet a subscriber, come on, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe right now. Then you know that some of my absolute favorite fragrances have a bit of vetiver in them, but I'm not the biggest fan of overly sort of a vetiver heavy kind of fragrances, but with a few exceptions, and Tom Ford Grey Vetiver is one of them. What an absolutely gorgeous scent Grey Vetiver is. However, the one I want to talk about in this video is a fragrance that definitely has some clear similarities with Grey Vetiver, but it's done with a twist. It's also a scent for a fraction of the cost of Grey Vetiver. To me, both of these are citrusy fresh, but I do feel that the citrusy freshness of Artisan XX is definitely more of the bitter kind. Grey Vetiver's freshness and the overall feel of Grey Vetiver is definitely more of the smoother kind, whereas I do feel Artisan XX has a bit more bite to it. Both have an earthy feel and both are definitely woody, but I do feel that Artisan XX is a bit more earthy and a bit more woody, and this could in a way be described as John Varvatos' version of Grey Vetiver. That's got a bit more bite to it. So it does look like I'm pretty much halfway through my bottle of Raf's Club Parfum. The aromatic side in Raf's Club Parfum is definitely among some of the very best there is. You get lavender, clary sage and geranium, and that trio in here smells absolutely fantastic. That gorgeous aromatic freshness sits on top of what I think is quite a smooth dose of woodiness. But to my nose, one of the very best things that makes Raf's Club Parfum so good is that it has a dose of fresh apple, which basically brings the whole thing a really nice dose of fruitiness with a bit of sweetness. And this combo of freshness, fruitiness and woodiness is extremely mass appealing. Raf's Club Parfum is one of those fragrances I feel it's extremely hard to go wrong with, and I do feel this is pretty much perfect for spring. So let's move on to a fragrance in the incredibly classy and elegant Givenchy Gentleman line. This has a bit of that core Givenchy Gentleman scent DNA in it, but I do feel they took this one in a more fresh and versatile direction. The base here, the dry down, is a really nice dose of smooth cedarwood. On top of that woodiness, you have a gorgeous dose of iris, which basically brings the whole thing a really nice kind of powderiness. If you compare that powderiness to some of the other powdery scents in the Gentleman line, I do feel this is a lighter and less sort of a thick and rich kind of powderiness, which basically makes this a more versatile kind of scent. And the opening is basically where you get a citrusy and spicy kick, and I'm also getting a soft dose of something that is a bit sweet. I feel Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Toilette Intense is a fragrance you really gotta put your nose to fully understand it, but there's something absolutely fantastic about the smooth freshness it has, the spicy yet smooth kick it has, that slightly sweet powderiness, and that extremely smooth and almost creamy woodiness. So next up a fragrance you probably know about, and I actually feel this is a bit underrated. The reason why I wanted to include it in this video is because it combines both apple and pineapple together with a fantastic dose of smooth freshness. You also have a gorgeous dose of lavender cutting through it all. Its fruitiness definitely has a bit of sweetness to it, and the dry down is a bit woody. However, I do feel its woody side is of the soft kind. It's fresh, fruity, sweet and woody, and I do feel Montblanc Legend, this is the Eau de Toilette, together with the Montblanc Explorer are two of the most compliment-getting ones from Montblanc. This is one of those fragrances you really don't have to give much thought on what it is you're wearing. You just spray it on and you know you'll smell good to most people that you meet. So next up a fragrance that took some time for it to grow on me, but nowadays I really appreciate it, and I also appreciate that it's quite different. And this is basically the fresher and more versatile alternative to the compliment getter. This is him. You get grapefruit and lemon in the opening for an intense dose of citrus, and right behind that you get this bitter, almost slightly sort of a sharp kind of freshness as well. It is quite woody with Palo Santo wood and amber wood, and in a nutshell this is really him from Zadig and Voltaire. Is basically a combination of freshness and woodiness, where I think the main thing that makes it stand out is it's slightly sort of a smoky and nuanced kind of woodiness. So moving on to Phantom Intense, and the sort of easiest way to describe it is that it's basically the fresh version of Phantom Parfum, and it's basically a lighter and fresher take on that Phantom DNA. The main star here, at least to my nose, is its freshness together with vanilla, and its freshness, at least to me, is quite nuanced with a lot of layers to it. It has an intense but also very smooth dose of citrus, and I can't remember what they call it, if it was like frosted or icy orange blossom, something like that. So Phantom Intense is basically, at least to my nose, all about quite an intense and exciting dose of freshness together with a bit of sweet vanilla, and the whole thing is smoothly woody. This is the Phantom I reach for the most during spring and summer. I'm not the biggest fan of the bottles, but the juice inside of Phantom Intense is really nice, and if you ever worn it, then you probably know what a fantastic compliment getter it is. So next up we have a fantastic compliment getter with what I feel is a fantastic fantastic dose of lavender, a gorgeous dose of plum, and a really sexy dose of sweetness. The drawdown is where the whole thing turns quite woody, together with quite a prominent dose of earthiness. That trio, the plum with its fruitiness, the lavender with its aromatic freshness, and its masculine woodiness is fantastic. I've talked about Bad Boy Cobalt, the eau de parfum, so many times before, so I'm not gonna say that much more about it. This is a great choice as a fresh fragrance for spring that's got a bit of a depth and sweetness to it. So there you go, some fantastic, more fresh choices for spring. And I would absolutely love to know if you tried any of these and what you think of them. And I would also love to know if you have any favorite more sort of fresh fragrances for spring. Let me know in the comments, drop a like and subscribe for more, and make sure you check out my other videos over there.